Hello everybody, I'm sad to announce that yet another mighty tree has fallen in the person of the great Allan Skill Cole. Though not a reggae artist, he was an essential part of the story of the genre's greatest era and characters. He was truly the Tuff Gong's best friend and confidant, and was always there during highly significant events, whether good or bad, as Bob's tour manager at the peak of his powers. On his own, he celebrated as one of Jamaica's greatest athletes of all time, and was among one of the island's first footballers to truly make a mark as a professional player in foreign leagues, and definitely the first Rastafarian footballer to go pro. He was one of the Tuff Gong's fiercest supporters and used his street smarts in the early days to bully the radio DJs that discriminated against Rasta music to give his records more airplay. Over time, he became the right-hand man and second most pivotal figure in the Bob Marley music machine. Described as both a hustler and a prophet, his life wasn't free from controversy and wasn't liked very much by some people in the Wailers inner circle, including Aston Barrett and Gilly Gilbert. Let's take a look at the life and times of Allan Skill Cole. He was born on the 14th of October 1950 in Kingston, Jamaica, and was enrolled at the Kingston College High School before being transferred to Vere Technical High, where his phenomenal football talent began to attract attention from his high school mates, teachers, and eventually Kingston at large. He was an extremely prolific striker, and after scoring 38 goals in the competition, his fame grew all over the country, and at the age of 15, he made history by becoming the youngest player to get a call-up to Jamaica's senior national football team. He was like the Joe Higgs of Jamaican football, as he would organize and sponsor plenty of informal matches around the capital to help find talented young players. Around that time, in 1966, Bob Marley had just returned from the US, and alongside his two bandmates was hustling to establish the Wailers after leaving Studio One. Bob was a keen footballer and great admirer of Cole, and both young men would meet and hit it off during a football meet in Kingston, especially as Cole was a big lover of music. Over the next few years, their bond would grow as Cole adopted the Rastafarian faith. In 1968, he made his breakthrough as a professional player in the US with a team called the Atlanta Chiefs, and he would play for that team for 2 seasons before going back to Jamaica. And fast forward to 1972, he got signed to a Brazilian team called Nautico, and he would help them qualify for their first national championships in almost 13 years, and played against big names like Pele and Jairzinho, icons who had won the World Cup just 2 years before. He was a colorful figure and very popular with the fans for his skills as well as being a Rastafarian. But by his second season with Nautica, it was his dreadlocks that would come between him and the club. The club's management wanted him to cut his dreadlocks, a deal breaker for Cole, and he left the club immediately. He returned to Jamaica and joined Santos Football Club, which he helped to 3 National League titles. In those days, himself, sprinter Don Quarry, and cricketer Lawrence Rowe were the most popular sportsmen on the island. He and Bob had lost touch, but reconnected during a football match in Trenchtown, which had been organized by Mortimer Plano. The pair would become very close, and Skill Cole quickly became a member of Bob's inner circle, alongside the Barrett brothers and Sekou Patterson. In those days, Jamaican radio stations had an unspoken bias against Rasta music, and though the Wailers had sent their records to these stations, they weren't getting any airplay. Allan Skill Cole would personally lead the Wailers to different radio stations where they had dropped off their records and threatened the disc jockeys to play their music or else. He would become their tour manager and also became responsible for that trio's fitness. He would make them play football in the morning and run long distances, though Peter preferred karate and skip ropes. These exercises would help to build their stamina that shined through in their very energetic stage performances. In fact, Bob's super skanking moves were inspired by the dribbling drills that Cole taught him on the football field. Bob Marley and the Wailers' popularity would explode, and Cole would fiercely defend Bob's interests, though he was looked upon with suspicion by band leader Aston Barrett, and for good reason too. Cole was a street guy and was said to be heavily involved with gambling. In fact, after the release of the Rastaman Vibration album in 1976, rumors began to filter out that Cole was involved in the fixing of horse races at the popular Caymanas Park, which in those days was embroiled in a huge scandal that reverberated around the island. And professionally, his team Santos were not doing so well, and his goals had dried up as off-field distractions took their toll. Those weren't the best days for Allan, but he would get a nice exit from all his troubles when he was appointed head coach of the Ethiopian national football team, and he departed for the African country on Christmas Day 1976. He would immerse himself in his new job, far away from Jamaica, and sadly also far away from I3 singer Judy Mowat and the 2 daughters that he had with her. But in November 1978, he and the Tuff Gong would reconnect when Bob visited on a 4-day pilgrimage. Cole would receive Bob with a welcome party of Rastafarians at the airport and took Bob to hang out for a whole day at the Rasta settlement of Shashamane, and he showed Bob a wonderful time. In fact, it was at Cole's apartment that Bob wrote the hit song Zimbabwe that formed part of his album Survival. Allan Skill Cole returned to Jamaica in late 1979 after finishing his contract and resumed his duties at Bob's side, and he would help navigate those trying times, managing Bob's huge fame, the pressures of the business, and generally defending his interests. He was there when Bob discovered that his business manager, Don Taylor, had overcharged the Gabonese government for a concert in January 1980. And while Bob was undergoing treatment for cancer in New York later that year, it was Cole that made sure that Bob left the very busy Mayflower Hotel to the quiet and peaceful ambience of Chris Blackwell's apartment in Essex House. But despite his good intentions, it would rub Aston Barrett up the wrong way to have Bob lodge separately apart from them, as well as Gilly Gilbert, who in Cole's absence had become the tour manager. In the aftermath of Bob's tragic death the next year, Cole would say goodbye to the music scene and reverted to his first love, that was football. He has since passed his best as an athlete. Though among the most gifted players to emerge from Jamaica, he really failed to reach his potential due to his divided attention. He would apply his skills to coaching and managed 2 Jamaican Premier League teams in Arnett Gardens and Port Moran United. He had all the skills and the right tools to coach Jamaica's national team, but his outspoken and radical approach will see him get overlooked by the soccer authorities, and his physical altercation with the national sports director Rene Sinos at National Stadium in 1998 would certainly not help matters. And a few years later, he would face severe legal challenges when he was found guilty of attempted marijuana dealings and was fined $1 million Jamaican in 2002. But despite his challenges, he's remained a cult figure and major icon both in the music and sporting scenes. He appeared hale and hearty in a TV interview only last year where he made his feelings known about the newly released Bob Marley One Love movie. He made it clear that he wouldn't watch that film as he felt it contained lots of things that never happened, such as a scene where Rita Marley smacks Bob across the face. According to Cole, that could never have happened. He looked very strong in that interview, so it hit me as a huge shock when in the late hours of Tuesday, the 9th of September, the news came out that the mercurial Allan Skill Cole had passed away after a brief illness. Another huge loss as the remaining members of Bob's inner circle grew smaller and smaller. His was a life filled with highs and lows, but definitely a life well spent, and may his great soul rest in perfect peace.